Picture this. During office hours, a student asks you, I don't understand why we spend all this time discussing these topics in class. What's the point of these discussions? As a faculty, how do you show students that these discussions actually matter? So, welcome to Off Syllabus with Manny, where we talk about the hardest parts of teaching, the ones that never make it to the syllabus. Today, we are digging into something we don't often talk about, which is how to assess what students learn or gain from engaging in tough conversations in the classroom. Today, joining me is Piontak from the Institute of Citizens and Scholars. She's here to break down how to assess civil discourse skills. So let's get into it. Rachel, how are you doing today?
Pretty good. Good to be back here. How you doing?
Good. Excited to talk to you about assessing. I do love collecting numbers and collecting data to show that what we do matters. So I'm excited to figure out or learn more about how to do this around civil discourse. So in your opinion, when students engage in tough conversations in the class, what do they actually learn from this experience?
Very important opening question. And I'm happy to reply not just with my opinion, but with a lot of solid research, because there's a lot out there that shows that students do gain something from this. Specifically, just leading off, Crosby 2018 says that students who engage in conversations across lines of difference have the opportunity to practice and enhance skills in ethical communication, widening their perspectives, and with that broader aim to create an educational environment that is built on trust and mutual respect and critical thinking, which is what we want out of college students. I should have also mentioned that I really love talking about assessment too. So this is going to be a lot of hand gestures happening. But also Winthrop in their 2020 study says that students who practice civil discussion or civil discourse, it prepares them to be more civically engaged in their community more widely. And so I think this really speaks to the value of building these skills in students within the classroom for the intention to then become actively engaged citizens beyond the classroom. This is done through learning how to listen actively, challenge their own assumptions, which is where a lot of that reflection comes into play. And I know we're going to talk about that a little later on. And to really consider the nuance of issues rather than things becoming a binary black and white like we tend to do. I could go on, developing resilience, all the things, but essentially that's what they have to actually learn from this.
Yeah, so I do actually have a more philosophical question about your description. I know, I'm going to make you think. So we talk about civil discourse, and in general, you don't take a class about civil discourse. I mean, maybe you do, but in general, it's not part of the curriculum per se, but it's part of the higher education. So like, what do you think is the value of like civil discourse skills as part of a student's like achievement of a college degree?
Yeah. I mean, I think civil discourse often gets pigeonholed into spaces of political science or international relations, more of like the social sciences. We're trying to talk about our position in the world, when in reality, absolutely, it's so much more broader and more embedded across curriculum than that, because what we're really doing in the philosophical grander sense is modeling and by extension guiding students to realize the messiness of their own place and positionality in the world. That what they came into college believing and thinking does not have to be the same things that they leave that experience with, and that by intentionally learning from and talking with and listening to folks who have different ideas from them, whether that's their professor or their peers, they're kind of being forced to wrestle with their identities and the identities of those around them in a way that just feels incredibly unique and a bedrock of the higher ed experience. Is that philosophical enough for you?
I think so, because it's like this idea that it might be part of the communication skills that they had to develop, or maybe part of the global awareness that they have to understand or critical thinking skills. Like it's sort of
Yeah.
like part of the hidden curriculum of the things that we want them to do. And sometimes we don't make it very explicit. Uh,
Exactly.
yeah. So,
That's what we
so
should do. There we go. Make it more
yeah,
explicit. Done.
which I think it will take us to the next question, which is perfect about like how do faculty make the learning that students gain from engaging in tough conversations and tough discussions more visible for students. And I'm gonna put a caveat because I want to challenge you a little. I like making things harder. So
This was too easy otherwise.
how can we make it visible without adding a lot of work to the faculty? Visible and easy.
Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah, visible and easy. I mean, actually, it's not as you set me up for something more challenging than it actually was because making it visible is hand in glove, is that the term, with making it explicit. So say why it is that you're doing these discussions, or explain the reasoning behind co-creating group agreements with your class. Just tell them. I mean, I think it's such a simple but often overlooked piece of pedagogy, is making sure that our reasoning as the instructor, as the educator in the room, is clear to the learners in the room, because that's actually part of the learning process itself. And so getting down to the granular level, a very simple way to do that is when you're doing, notice I say when because I'm assuming that everyone listening to this already recognizes the importance of these and is already, planning to redesign their courses to embed civil discourse skills. Nonetheless, whenever you're doing, say, a quick anonymous poll at the end of class, say you talked about reproductive rights in class that day, and folks had very strong feelings about it on all sides of all the aisles. As you leave, doing a quick exit ticket to say, hey, what's something that surprised you? What's something you still want to learn more about? I've called them the learn and the learn more. What did you learn about? What do you want to learn more about? And so just by taking a couple of minutes to have students answer, whether anonymously, on a note card, there's a variety of mediums for this. The making it visible piece happens next time. The next class, you lead off with, hey, at the end of the last class, you all, like 60% said that you wanted to learn more about XYZ related to this topic, or 40% said that you were still really confused on this angle of it. Let's dive into it a little more. And so you're not only showing students that you are listening to them, but you're able to adapt to what it is that they're wondering about. And that goes back to building that trust and mutual respect as well. So that's one example. That's easy, right?
Yeah, I think so. And I like it because there's like two components that you talk about that I think are important. And one of them is very undervalued at times for faculty, and is you have to sell things to students. Like we often create assignments and we have this idea what they should reach, and then there are missed with students because they don't understand the intention behind it. And then people might not, like students might not enjoy it, or they might not find a value because we didn't sell them. I will say many times when I was teaching, like my students will enjoy something because I sold them into it first. Like, let's build this together. This is the reasoning behind it. And then they will buy in, and then that will work. And the second thing you mentioned that is also important is closing the loop. You hear from them, next time you bring that back up. So they know that you are hearing them, but they also hear what their peers gain from the experiences, which I think is fantastic. So thank you.
Yeah. No, thank you. There's a reason you do what you do. You do it well, because I can tell that you have so many different angles to get to this assessment piece, which is why, without giving it all away, if you ask me what's something that professors can do next, I'm going to say talk to their Center for Teaching and Learning, find that place on campus of folks dedicated to helping to think through how to embed these elements and these assessment pieces into the course itself so that we don't contribute to survey fatigue. We're not giving students, a 100-word survey at the 100 question survey at the end of the semester, but that there are many ways to kind of micro reflect throughout. And I think offices like yours are a big part of that.
And I will say, like, it's not like you have to come in to ask for help. If you're doing something in your class and it's amazing, just come here and let us know so we can broadcast what you're doing. This is
Yeah,
literally what we're doing right now. I'm taking
absolutely.
all Rachel's knowledge and put
Well,
it out there so we can all learn from it. Like, I only know what I know, and there's a lot of things I don't know. And I will never claim that I know a lot of things. I just know small piece of information. So everything you have to share about how to engage students and how to assess, like, let me know and we will highlight your work. Which follows up to the next question about if I am a professor and I am engaging my students in conversations and I really want to take a more scientific approach and really evaluate what students are learning. Do you know any assessment tools or strategies that I can use to evaluate and also to sell to other people so other people believe me what I'm saying? Uh, you know,
yeah.
this is important. Yeah, so to evaluate what students are gaining from engaging in these discussions.
Such a veiled question that sounds so simple. But ultimately, like any question of evaluation, it matters first what your goals are. What is it that you're trying to measure? What is the capacity you have to do so? What are the tools at your disposal? So everything I'm saying now should be taken with a grain of salt, but there's kind of three different areas for assessment tools. There's embedded external assessment tools, which, depending on your course content, can be done through groups like Unify America. They have a civic gym where they take students and connect them with students with different political backgrounds.
Nice.
They facilitate an hour-long conversation. Yeah, I actually participated in it this past summer and was connected to a student out in Colorado, and it was a great time.
How many stars? Out of 5 stars, how many stars?
I would say 4.5. And the only reason I wouldn't give 5 is because it's designed for students. Like, explicitly, it is typically designed for college students. So it's really hard to be connected with another colleague at that level. But it was a great experience. But I tell you this to say that they have embedded assessment at the end, and their team will share with professors what their findings were, anonymously, of course. So there's some that you can completely kind of offload to other groups. And I would say, working at the Institute for Citizens and Scholars, we do a lot of in-house survey building and measurement as well. And so anyone who's redesigning a course based on these principles, based on productive dialogue, engaging across difference, that sort of thing, I would be more than happy to share our student reflective tool, our student reflection tool link with those faculty as well, because that's connecting. This goes into my second part, which is connect to a bigger network outside of just your course. Because what's so valuable about our research is that it's not just, hey, Manny, among your 20 students, 16 of them said that they learned active listening skills. Yay. But rather we can say, hey, Manny, out of your 20 students, this number said that they improved their active listening skills, which is compared to this more than 600 other data points we have from schools across the country over the last several years now. So there are many opportunities to connect in the bigger picture way, but on a more granular level, again, doing quick free polls like with Mentimeter or Poll Everywhere, something that will compile that data for you. Most learning management systems have embedded polling services of some kind. So really using something that's quick, that can get set up and then automatically collect that data for you in a beautiful spreadsheet. It's going to be easier than writing reflections, though that's always going to be where my heart is for the qualitative piece of me. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of different ways to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you have like 20 students or 50 students, it's a little bit easier to collect qualitative data. When you have like, I don't know, 900 students,
Exactly.
you might know what to.
Even in the 70s and above, I would say maybe we should think more quantitatively about that. Unless you
Yeah,
have a
well,
good TA.
yeah, and if you want to be strategic about like collecting data, like we do have a data analytics team that can help in this process. So feel free to reach out to CITL and we can talk about if you have a large number of students and you want some support. Not promising anything, so I don't want Mary guys to hate me, but we can talk about how we can support that. So I wanted to, as we close this episode, I wanted to know, let's say I want to start tomorrow. What is a simple way that I can start to assess what students are learning in my class through these engaging in tough conversations?
That I'm going to return to the learned and learned about.
Mhm.
This is very convenient because I'm at my home office and I have these note cards next to me at all times. You never know when you need a note card. But as I mentioned, I think in a previous podcast, I once bought them in bulk because they were on sale. And so I had to find reasons to use note cards with my students for everything all the time. And one of the easiest ways was as an exit ticket. So at the very end of class, reserve those last 2 minutes to have them write down what is something new that you learned, what is something you want to learn more about, or maybe what is something that surprised you in class today. Or if you want to go next level, depending on what you did in class that day, what is a behavior that you observed from another student that contributed positively to the classroom environment or to the learning environment or to the discussion that was at hand? Because that allows students to not just be in their internal reflective bubble, but to look out and say, what are other people doing that I think is working and why is that working? So again, there's a number of lists online. There's some great rubrics out there for helping to assess productive dialogue, which I will provide for the resources associated with this podcast episode. But there's so many great templates already that exist. You do not need to come up with everything on your own. Just make sure you double check it. So I would say one thing to do tomorrow, go find note cards on sale, rate a supply closet and give your students an exit ticket so that you have something to work from.
And if it's snowing outside, like it is right now, and you don't want to drive, you can also just create some sort of like Google Doc or something electronic and put a QR code. And then technically you could give that to maybe one of the TAs or one of the graders and do it like a very simple coding so you can get some feedback out of what students are getting or
100%.
they need more help with.
Honestly, I upvote that. Yeah, mine is less environmentally friendly. I vote for what Manny said.
I don't know. There's also a value of just writing. I don't know. There's like, when I engage with like electronics and I write, it's not the same as when I'm sitting down with a piece of paper. So like, I think there's a value to both of them. But thank you for the vote of confidence for my idea. I appreciate it. Yeah. So with that in mind, so thank you, Rachel, for sharing with us all this information about how we can approach assessment for civil discourse and all the skills that are involved in engaging tough conversations. For more information about assessment and for more resources, check the links below. And remember, teaching goes beyond what's on the syllabus. Thank you for listening.